But let's start with Florida taking on North Carolina in a very hostile environment for the Gators because, of course, the game was in Charlotte for the Jumpman Invitational. And I'll tell you the prism with which I was watching, Mia. So once a month, all of my girlfriends get together. We've been doing this for like over a decade now. And normally it's on Mondays. But we had to reschedule it this month to last night, a Tuesday. So I prepared them in advance that I will be locked into this basketball game. The ladies' night starts at 7, and the game obviously started at 7. So I told them for the first 2 hours of our time together, I will be watching the Florida men's basketball team. And I did, and thankfully they're super supportive, and so they jumped alongside and started watching as well. They got locked into it. Most of them were just kind of casually watching and saying like, oh, Florida's up by a lot. That was, of course, in the first half. And then they'd look over and go, uh-oh. And so eventually everyone, like I said, really got locked into the end of the game. And with about 4 minutes left, I thought, well, Florida played hard. And certainly Elijah Martin, it's just not his night, right, from 3. But you know what? This is going to be a good learning experience. And then by about 2 minutes left to go, I thought, holy cow, Todd Golden's team is going to do something that it feels in the moment is so difficult to do. And that is, and I understand the game's not at North Carolina, but it's in North Carolina. And certainly the Tar Heels outnumbered the Gators there. And they found a way, thanks to something that has defined their season all year so far, now at 11-0, and that is rebounding. They are so good at rebounding. And so thanks to Will Richard, certainly late stretch, that not just rebounding, but also putting the shot in. And Florida went on to win, and they're undefeated 11-0 for the first time since 05-06.
They closed on a 22-12 run. What happened the last time in 05-06? What also happened that season, Lauren, on the basketball front?
That was a national championship.
Okay, just want to make sure we filed
but that was
one
Billy Donovan and guys that would go on to play, a lot of guys that would go on to play in the NBA. This is a little different. Certainly Todd Golden
College
is much
basketball
newer.
is different.
But college basketball is insanely different. You're right about that.
And Billy Donovan had, not as much success early on as Todd Golden has had now in year 3, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to suggest that success could come early.
Well, early on, Billy Donovan took his team to the national championship, but lost against Michigan State. So, yeah, certainly there's some parallels there, but like you said, the way roster construction is completely different now at the transfer portal. It's fascinating to see a team play this well together so early on because they haven't been together. Some of these guys haven't been together that
and
long.
I think that's I want to dispel this narrative of Florida brought back everybody. They brought back a lot, Lauren, but they didn't bring back their entire starting 5. It's not like this is the same exact outfit that went to the SEC tournament title game last season. I think that needs to be dispelled. There are new pieces here. Elijah Martin, for those of you who are just getting into the basketball season, standout transfer from FAU, went to a Final Four once upon a time with the crew down there in Boca. And so I think you add him, Micah Hanlogden not playing this season, which I know you and I are both following this story. We're like, yes.
He's jumping up and down on the sidelines. Why can't he play?
He's jumping up and the injury he suffered in the aforementioned SEC tournament title game was gruesome. It was ugly from multiple people, including one Jaguars linebacker, Foye Oluokun, who was at the barn that night, saw that game and that tournament title game. He said you could hear a pin drop when Micah Hanlogden went down. So he's back, but he's not really back. And so, again, I want to dispel this narrative of, well, they have all the pieces back, and that's why they're doing what they're doing, because that's not the case. They have the foundation. The foundation is Walter Clayton and Will Richard. I'm going to keep saying that. Will Richard in the backcourt. I don't know why I want to try to make it harder than it is. Will Richard and Walter Clayton in the backcourt.
I think it's because Chris Richard is probably in your head because of Jaguar stuff.
This is what happens in crossover season. That's the foundation of this team. They are alphas. I think Will Richard showed in the second half last night that this is not, as much as Walter Clayton is probably going to be the All-American selection, is going to be an SEC first team selection when all is said and done. Last night was not his night, and Will Richard can take over a game too. The biggest stat for me, Lauren, and it's shocking to see, the final margin in the offensive rebounding department was 16-13. It did not feel like that in the final 7 minutes of this game. Let me take you back.
By the way, also Ruben Chinyelu was not on the team last year, and he now starts.
Exactly, correct. So again, multiple starters are new this season. With 7:34 left in the game last night, Florida committed its 17th turnover. Also not very typical of a Todd Golden team over the last 3 years. On the next possession, UNC goes up 72-68. That first bucket by R.J. Davis, and then the three-point play opportunity. I believe that was for either Seth Trimble or Jalen Washington. For the rest of the game, from that point forth, when it was 72-68, with 7 minutes plus left, they never turned the ball over again. They out-rebounded North Carolina 14-5. And then, here it is, 7-0 boards to 0 offensive rebounds for North Carolina.
North Carolina is too small to be.
What did I sit here and tell you yesterday?
Right. Yeah, they're too small to be an elite postseason type of men's basketball team. And that's something where I don't even want to bring up Mike White because that'll fire people up, obviously.
Hey, listen, we love to hear from you Gator fans on the text line designed by Lifetime Enclosure, 641-1010.
Yeah, I don't even want to go there, but certainly one common denominator of Mike White teams, besides the fact that they had the serious droughts in offensive production at times, but it was also the fact that they only usually had like one big guy. They were always too small. And so when they got into those physical types of games, and you can honestly liken it to the Jaguars at times too, they don't win the physical types of games. And so under Todd Golden, I knew, like I said yesterday, I knew they'd be a good offensive team as far as shooting from three because that is a staple of Todd Golden's offense. I just didn't realize how good he would have them at so many other things, including the rebounding, including the defensive efficiency. And Thomas Houck is one of my favorite all-time players.
He's
already
taken a massive step forward, and that was going to be critical if Florida was to navigate not only a non-conference schedule that, as we've documented on this program, has been the trigger of a lot of national analysts of, are they really that good, though? Well, I don't know.
Virginia and North Carolina. Okay, that's all I have to say.
Those are two marquee name programs, even if they are not your grandmother's Virginia or even the North Carolina team we thought that we would see coming into this season. I think with North Carolina, ultimately, where they're going to land is if R.J. Davis isn't able to put the ball in the basket, good luck. I noted to you yesterday, Elliot Cadeau started the season off on fire. He has since cooled off. Seth Trimble's been a nice, certainly rotational piece, a member of that starting five for North Carolina. Jalen Washington, quite frankly, is playing out of position. He shouldn't be playing the five, but he has to because they don't have that size. R.J. Davis entered yesterday's game averaging about 16 points per game, Lauren. He dropped 29. This game is not nearly this close if the All-American and National Player of the Year contender doesn't do what he does. And look, he's always going to get his. And I think that's what speaks to the depth with Florida, who, by the way, only went 8 deep last night. I think this idea of you can stop R.J. Davis while still being effective not only defensively, but also getting back quickly in transition on the offensive end of the floor. I think that's what's most impressive. It's not like having the scouting report of a National Player of the Year contender bogged down Florida. It did not at all. And I understand Walter Clayton's numbers, only 12 points, was 1 of 7 from three-point land, 4 of 15 from the floor. I understand that that's disappointing, and you expect to not see that every night. But at the same time, the fact that there are other pieces, Thomas Howe, Alex Condon, Alex Condon's development has certainly been well documented here on the Superstation in his second season under Todd Golden. And those pieces are going to be just as important as Clayton when all is said and done. In contrast, if UNC doesn't have that lead point guard, it all goes to heck in a handbasket real quick.
Yeah, I liked Ian Jackson last night, the freshman, and he was certainly a huge part of their comeback there at the beginning of the second half. And I do think he could get a starting role over maybe a guy like Elliot Cadeau, who we talked about it yesterday, just isn't great from three. And that's a liability, especially when you're going up against a team that can be dominant in pretty much every aspect of offensive categories in basketball. And like you said, Clayton didn't have his best night, but that's the beautiful part. He doesn't have to. And so having those 3 guards is just an important part for Todd Golden.
And if you want to go bigger with your lineup, I mean, Will Richard is a bigger guard to begin
Olivier
with.
Roux, where are you?
God,
No, that's all, by the way, that's all that non-basketball fans know about Florida, I feel like, is the 7'9" guy.
They have the tallest teenager in the world. That's all anyone wanted to talk about.
My friends last night, is he going to play? Like, no.
That's all they know.
Take you behind the curtain. No, he's not going to play this season.
He's redshirting. Like,
Todd Golden already said that, and he probably doesn't have the basketball IQ that he needs to have. And also, when you're 7'9", it's kind of hard to be agile and, learn everything you need to that quickly. So just relax. But he'll play next year, and Micah Hanlogton and Olivier Roux on the court at the same time would be insane.
And Alex Condon.
Right.
Have fun with that one. That's going to be a Death Star lineup that Todd Golden will be able to employ next year, so long as all those players are back, which at this rate, I would expect them all to be back because the Gators are humming. We did say, Lauren.
Mike White.
I don't know if that's what spurred the text line designed by Lifetime Enclosures, but your fellow Gators have come out of the woodwork. They want to talk basketball on this fine Wednesday. 910 says that this team reminds him of the Patrick Young 2014 team that went all the way to the Final Four. I'm curious your
I can
thoughts on
understand that. Yeah, that was a team that. So when we talk about the 04s, that first class that won the national championship at Florida and obviously won back-to-back, that class was loaded, like I said, with NBA talent. The 2014 team
was a surprise Final Four run.
Absolutely, and went undefeated in the SEC, which I don't know if we'll ever see that again, especially with the way the SEC has improved over the last 10 years. But that team certainly had a lot of talent, but they didn't have nearly the same talent as the 04s. But they did something that this team does do really well, and that is play scrappy. They would fight for every loose ball. There was never a moment where you were going to question their intensity, their effort, their energy. And that's what this team certainly has a lot of.
And it speaks to coaching.
It certainly does.
It speaks to coaching.
Hey, it's Matt Hayes. Thanks so much for watching the 1010XL Gators channel. For more college football coverage, check out the Knowles channel.